Hey y'all, if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira and my channel is all about talking about new makeup, trying new makeup, but also finding new and exciting ways to be inspired by the makeup that you own. So if that sounds good to you, I hope you will consider subscribing, and if you enjoy this video, hitting the like button. And today I have another for science experiment, but also to probably save some of you some coinage, okay? Pat McGrath recently came out with, and I believe it came out last week, last either Thursday or Friday, I believe, her little mini voyage eyeshadow palette that I believe is a Sephora exclusive, and the palette is really cute. The color story is beautiful, but here's the thing. That palette is full of repeat shades. There's only one new shade in that mini palette. All of the other shades are shades from her Mothership palette series, or collection rather. And I own all of them. And so I decided today to create a look on my eyes using the shades that are in that palette that I own. Now, like I said, there is one shade in that mini palette that is a new exclusive shade, and it's called Bronze Venus. I went through my Pat McGrath, my Motherships, and I was like, you know, I wanted to stick with the Motherships because those are all available for purchase, as opposed to her quads and her mini palettes and all those things. I didn't want to get into those because some are available and some aren't. I wanted to stick with palettes that you could purchase or that you may already own. So I went through all my Motherships and I found a shade that I think is not only a dupe, but I think is a better version of that shade. And that is in the Midnight Sun palette. So let's do a little breakdown of each shade that is in the mini that are in her Motherships. Mini Voyage eyeshadow palette, or Midnight Voyage, excuse me, Midnight Voyage eyeshadow palette features 6 shades. The first shade is Skin Show Divine Glow. That shade is actually in, along with 3 of the other shades, is actually in Bronze Seduction. So Skin Show Divine Glow is in Bronze Seduction. We then have Entrapment, which is also in Bronze Seduction. The next shade is Sunset Bronze, and that is the new shade. And we'll cover the dupe that I've found for that one in a moment. The next shade is Extreme Aubergine. That is also in Bronze Seduction. The final 2 shades are Eleganza, which is in Divine Rose 1, and Night Creature, which is that purple gorgeous shade in Subversive. So you've got 3 shades. Already half of this palette, this Midnight Voyage palette, is from Bronze Seduction. So if you have Bronze Seduction, you have the bulk of this palette. The other 2 shades are in Divine Rose 1 and Subversive. And then you have the new shade. So in the swatches, you can see that Bronze Venus has this sort of orangey, it's called a bronze, but it's really more of an orange. At least that's how it looks in the swatches. It has very much this sort of orange tone, this sort of orange with a little bit of gold fleck in it. And a shade popped into my head immediately, and that's the one that I pulled, and I think it's the one that is the most accurate for this little experiment, and I'm swatching it with my fingers right now as I speak, and that is this shade right here. And I will swatch it for you. And there she is. And what's this beautiful shade? This is Blood Moon from Midnight Sun. It's that beautiful orange special shade. So I think this is a great dupe for that. And not only do I think it's a dupe, but it's probably better because it's one of the special shades. So it's got a little bit of texture to it. It's got a little bit more oomph than a traditional metallic, which is what Bronze Venus is. So I've already primed my eyes. I've done my full face. We're going to do a look using all of these shades to show you the look that you could get, or potential look that you could get with the Midnight Voyage palette. Let's get into it. All right, gang, I have zoomed you in. I've got my little trusty box of, or drawer of eyeshadow brushes here. And we are gonna go, I've been really loving these units brushes. Yes, it's dirty. I haven't washed my brushes. Zip it. I've been really loving these units brushes from Beautylish. I've been using them a ton lately. So I found myself reaching for those the most recently. So we're gonna start with Entrapment, and I'm gonna pull out Brown Seduction. So Entrapment is this tone here, this sort of tan brown shade. We're gonna go in with that. And I might as well just use this. Let me tap out my little creases there. And this brush is kind of big for this, but I kind of want to bring this up higher up on my brow bone, which is the reason why I'm using it. I don't usually use brushes this big for my eyes unless I'm doing sort of like an all over look, but I kind of want to bring this up a little bit higher today, so we're going to do that. And I'm using a synthetic brush mainly because synthetic brushes don't pick up as much product as natural hair brushes do. And I'm kind of wanting to go a little bit lighter and build up a little bit more than just going like ham with pigment right now. We'll do that in a mo, but not right now. All right. So that's Entrapment, really blown out, really blended out. It's not, because this is one of those shades that can go a bit deeper when you apply it to the eye. And it's also already kind of like a slightly deeper neutral when you swatch it. I wanted to use a fluffier brush just to blend that out a little bit more. All right, next we are going to go in, and I think I want to do Eleganza. And this is one of those situations where I've mentioned this before to you guys, where I really enjoy using Pat's. I'm gonna go in with a natural hair brush. I'm using the Sonia G Sky Classic Crease. What I love about her metallics is that a lot of them can be used like satins, you know? So this is Eleganza. And I'm sort of using this as my crease shade, like my actual crease shade, as opposed to Entrapment, which is sort of like a blown out base shade. How pretty that is. Entrapment, or excuse me, Eleganza is one of my favorite shades in Divine Rose 1. It's one of those shades, like when I was really using Divine Rose 1 a lot, I would go in with like my bronzer after I'd done my face and my crease, and then I'd tap Eleganza all over my eyelid, and then I'd just go in with like a highlighted corner. It's always beautiful. All right, now let's do Extreme Aubergine. I'm gonna get a slightly smaller brush now because we're gonna be using the number 13 from Rephr for this. Again, my brush is dirty. I don't want to hear it. I know I need to clean my brushes. That's like the thing that never leaves the to-do list. It's like you wash the brushes and then you use them and it goes right back on the to-do list. It's never ending. Never ending. So this is Extreme Aubergine. And I'm taking this a little bit higher than I took Eleganza. And just softly blending inwards with light motions. Because I want it dark, but I don't want it to overtake the entire look. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted to go in with Eleganza first, because it'll just sort of keep it from getting a little too intense. And I'm tapping so light when I go in with this brush because these rougher brushes are great. But this tiny brush, this 13, this is like one of my favorite brushes. And it's great if you have hooded eyes, and also if you just need to do really small, intense work, which you don't want it to over blend. This is the shade for you. All right, now, should we go in with Night Creature on the lid, or should I pull out Blood Moon for the lid? Let's do Night Creature because I high-key haven't really used this shade a whole lot. So I'm kind of curious as to how it's gonna look on my... Okay. Had to run and grab my setting spray because I forgot it. So I'm dipping into Night Creature. I'm gonna spray my brush. And Night Creature is sort of like the star of this palette, this Subversive palette. But it's not one of the special shades. It's her traditional metallic formula. But it has such a lovely tone to it, and it has so much dimension to it. It can sort of give the vibe of one of her special shades. Okay, take some more in the brush. Gonna do my other eye, spray it a little bit. A little bit more. All right, I'm gonna go back in with Extreme Aubergine and just marry these two together so that they blend nicely into each other. You can see the tone of that. It's such a pretty shade. It's, I would say in the pictures of the Midnight Voyage palette are misleading in the sense that Night Creature, and I don't think she would have tweaked the shade. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't feel like she would have. But Night Creature is far more fuchsia in tone than a traditional purple. And in the palette, the pictures of Midnight Voyage, it looks more purple than it actually is, if that makes sense. All right. Now let's get into the lower lash line. And I think for that, we're going to go smoky. So I'm going to use a Kyoto brush here, and I'm going to go back into Entrapment. And I'm going to smoke that all underneath my lower lash line. Back in business now. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of Extreme Aubergine in the corner as well. And I'm going to bring that in and smoke it. And now, for Blood Moon, which is taking the place of that Bronze Venus shade, I'm going to take my brush, same brush I used for Night Creature, but I have brushed it off, so there's no purple left on it. It's the same number 21 from Rougher that I love. I love so much. And I'm going to take this, and I'm applying this to, see if I can get you guys closer, my lower lash line here. finally, for the inner corner, we're going to grab a smaller brush. Let's just use this one, it's fine. And we're gonna go with Skin Show Divine Glow. And I'm gonna spray my brush for this one just to get, because it's such a light shade, I just wanted to make sure it has something to grab onto since it's so light. And I'm literally popping that in my inner corner, like so. Pretty. I'm going to put some mascara on and I'll be right back. All right, gang, I am back. I put on some mascara. I'm using the Kelly Ray Compel or High Water mascara that I've been using a ton lately. And then I added some pencil into my waterline. I used the Charlotte Tilbury Eyeliner Duo in Copper Charge. Put some lipstick on. I used the ColourPop Lippy in BFF3. And then one of my all-time favorite nudes, Pat McGrath, Los Angeles. And this is the finished look, and I think it's really pretty. I think it's pretty. I think that palette, I think that mini palette is gorgeous. I do. I think it's smart. I think it was very smart to take shades from such popular palettes and put them in like a little curated mini palette for those who are really curious about Pat McGrath but aren't trying to spend or can't spend $125 on a mothership. I think it's quite smart. I think it's good marketing. I think it's good. It's a good way to introduce, you know, it's an entry-level palette, you know, it's an entry-level palette to a luxury brand. And I always think that's a smart thing to do, because if people love something enough, they, you know, eventually, you know, they will eventually spend the money. So I think it's smart. Having said all that, if you own Pat McGrath motherships, you do not need that palette. You do not need that palette. It is a palette full of mattes and metallics. It has no special shades, which is why the price point is so affordable. It's $29 for a mini. I think that's a steal for Pat McGrath, even if it's just mattes and metallics. Her formulas are amazing, so I think $29 is a really good price, especially when you consider that when Pat McGrath was selling her single shadows, and I believe she's now gotten rid of those. She had a big sale on them, and they're not on the website anymore. When she had her single eyeshadows were $25 a pop. So $29 for a 6-pan palette from Mother Pat is a steal. Matte or metallic, though they may be. Okay? I'm just saying. But, I mean, if you own Bronze Seduction, you basically own that entire palette. I used, okay, so these are the shades that are in. It's literally this one, and this one. She literally just took these three here from the corner of the palette and slapped them in the mini. You know, Night Creature, beautiful. But if you own Subversive, you don't need it. If you have Midnight Sun and you really love that bronzy metallic, you've got a better version of that with Blood Moon. Eleganza, beautiful. If you own Divine Rose 1, it's right there. You don't need it. Skin Show Glow, which is the first one, this beautiful shade here, which is stunning. And I even added it across. I have highlighter on already, but I put a little bit more on. And again, that's what's in my inner corner. This is a beautiful, like, champagne-y gold. But she has a million champagne-y golds in her palettes, guys. I mean, here's the champagne-y gold in Divine Rose 1. So, the reason why I wanted to do this experiment was I know a lot of us are Pat McGrath fans and Pat McGrath fiends and stans. I don't like the term stan. Stan is a very negative connotation. I don't stan culture. But if you're a Pat McGrath fan and enthusiast and collector of her makeup, you might feel this desire to own that palette because it's new. It's the newest palette she's come out with since the holiday season. So you're like, ooh, I really want to get that. If you have all of these motherships, you don't need it. Save your coin. Recreate this look. sit down with your palettes, have fun. This to me is a perfect example of why palette mashups are so much fun, because that's essentially what Pat did, is that she did a palette mashup, guys, and she just put it in a tiny palette with really cute packaging. But I do this all the time with my motherships, and I recommend you doing it as well. And it can give you some really great ways and ideas to inspire you to continue to use your motherships and to use them in fun ways. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.